Oh boy, is Gon and Killua, and they're monsters. They're just monsters. What a great episode. Absolutely intense and wonderful.
Hunter x Hunter episode 71, Bargain and Deal.
Man, that's the meanest game of dodgeball I have ever seen played. God damn! Oh. Well, hello, my brothers and sisters of the Nerd Nation. I, as always, am Jim, here to bring you another review on the awesome and action-packed and dodgeball-ridden tale of Hunter x Hunter. Now, our last episode, of course, saw us just the entirety of the episode taking place in this just crazy, brutal, bloody game of Nen dodgeball. And of course, the episode wound up ending off with the whole Razor is the only guy that is left in there now, and of course has control of the ball. And Hisoka, Gon, and Killua, as beat up as they are, have kind of come up with some kind of crazy plan that Gon devised to try to block, deflect, whatever, dodge the attack that's going to come from Razor, because they need to get the ball back, right? And otherwise, if they don't work together, they're just going to get picked off apart. So that's where the episode left off. And actually, this one picks up right there, as you can imagine. And it's kind of cool to see, like, Razor goes, and first of all, we know this dude's next level, right? Okay, he's wearing the workout shorts, he's all buff, he's just this big dude, he's got a lot of power, and obviously he's one of the game masters, and he's one of the dudes that was, like, handpicked by Ging to, be part of this and everything else. So he's hardcore. Okay, we know that. There's no denying that. However, what he winds up doing to give himself some extra strength and abilities, he goes and he pulls all of his Nen beasts or demons or whatever you want to call them, pulls that aura of that Nen back into him so he can put everything, 110% into his throat, right? And he goes and he charges up the ball and he fires it up in the air like it's volleyball. He goes up in the air and he's goes to spike this thing down, right? And everything happens in just this awesome sort of just slow motion, but like at the same time, it's like slow, but it's not too slow. It's still just letting you soak in everything, right? And then we go and all of a sudden we see Gon and Killua and Hisoka basically all go, combine! And they all get close to each other and pretty much right up on one another, right? This ball comes down with the force of a fucking meteor, right? Okay, like a car being fired into the atmosphere from outer space, man. This thing is just coming at him, right? And boom, makes the impact. Gon catches the thing, right? Hisoka goes and immediately starts trying to use his powers to go and slow it down and to go and smother the force that's behind it so it doesn't just bounce off of Gon's hands. And Killua is the monkey in the middle trying to go and switch between pretty much offense and defense, cushioning and bracing both of them so nobody gets knocked out of the way, the ball doesn't go flying, whatever the case may be, right? So they wind up going in, and as they go in, I mean, they slide back, and there's smoke and everything everywhere, and it's great because as Razor's looking from his side, we see it from his side of the court, and as the smoke clears, boom, the three of them are standing there triumphant with this burnt-up-ass looking ball in their hands, and I'm just thinking, yeah, one for the team, right? Anyway, I shouldn't get this hyped up about dodgeball, but really, to tell you the truth, in this particular arc, there hasn't been a ton of, like, fights and a ton of action. So, for me, even though this isn't really like just any kind of all-out fight or whatever, it's still a strategic use of Nen abilities, and it's done in a very cool, very inventive way. So I think that's why I'm pretty just stoked, period. And I mean, the animation's just so beautiful, You look over at Hisoka, and he's just like, just, oh, man, I love it, He's over there popping up. And it's so funny because... I'll get to that later. But anyway... so then they go in, and Razor, he straight up is like, now he's like, wow, these guys really got some ability here, because he goes and does it in slow motion and kind of does a breakdown from the side, and the side view is funny because you've got Gon, right, and then you've got Killua up behind him trying to brace him or turn his kind of back to him and hold him with his back, and then Hisoka is just right up on him putting his arms over and like bracing Gon at first too, but the way it works out is it looks like just sort of a weird pedophile like dream for Hisoka, because Killua is right up by his armpits and shit like that, and God only knows what Hisoka's doing over there, man. Who knows, right? He's taking mental pictures for later on, nasty and shit. But anyway, Razor breaks down and explains it though that that Killua was really the most impressive one, because although Gon had to use perfect timing and strength and everything else to be able to catch this thing, and Hisoka's technique had to be perfect as far as smothering it and being able to slow down that momentum so he didn't cause a ricochet or cause it to go into them. obviously impacting them. But Killua, you know, he had to obviously brace them for impact, and he had to act as, he had to use the perfect amount of strength and nen that he could focus into his legs, into his body, and he really had to kind of straddle the line, he said, within like a less than 1% margin of error. And that's pretty tight. That's pretty tight considering it's like you never had to do that before. You've never worked like this with these two before. And to be able to go and just kind of by feel and instinct be able to just instinctually do what you need to do and get her done, it was amazing. And it's really kind of cool because we get to see with Razor, he's like, man, he is a monster, you know, to Killua and to Gon. I mean, Gon's fucking nuts too. So anyway, so then we know it. So now it's time for the big throw. It's time for the big one. Gon's coming up. Gon's coming up to bat, right? Killua's holding the ball. They're ready to go, you know? And Gon goes to charge his aura, right? Before he does the rock, paper, pulls his arm back, and he goes, and then he goes, and this shit just lights the whole room up, man. I mean, he's blowing the roof off the place. You know, when they say at concerts, raise the fucking roof. That's what Killua, or that's what Gon is doing. You know, Killua is just watching and hoping his hands don't get taken with the ball, right? And Hisoka's just sitting there in the corner like, boy, I might have fun with this one later on. Anyways, so as he goes and charges up this aura, though, I mean, it's just immense with obviously this aura that's coming out of it. And even Razor's like, holy shit, he wasn't using his full strength. He wasn't using everything he had, every last ounce in that last one. And if you remember, Razor was just barely able to go and stop that one. And of course, it wound up still deflecting and bouncing off of him. However, he knows with the strength of having pulled the extra aura and nen that he has from pulling back his little demons, that he thinks he's confident he'll be able to catch it or do whatever he's got to do with it and not, you know, not get knocked out of the ring. So anyway, so Gon charges up again with the rock, and he pulls this arm back, you know, and just charges up, and he's rock, paper, and then rock. And he just comes right through the ball, nails this thing, and it comes flying at him. And of course, we get the whole, like, it's in slow motion. It actually only takes a split second, but it's like 30 to 45 seconds in anime time. And the whole time, you're just sitting here like, holy fuck, is he going to catch it? Is it going to deflect? Is it going to tear his head off? Is it going to go right through his balls? I don't know. And you're watching, right? And I'm just, oh my god, and I'm sitting around biting the fingernails off that I don't even have anymore because I bit them off in the last episode, right? And this thing's coming at him, and it's coming at him, and Razor's thinking, and he's having a little cup of tea in his head, and he's like, man, I can't catch it, right? I can't, there's no way I can catch it, but I can't dodge it. I'm not going to be able to dodge it, right? So what does he do? He decides to go and partially take the impact as it comes at him, but he is able to somehow go and use its own strength and trajectory and speed that it's built up in that force, almost like a centrifugal force, where he's able to kind of swing it around and then fire it back at Gon, right? And he's confident that Gon is that much of a man, even though he's a 12-year-old boy, he's that much of a man that he's not going to dodge it because he doesn't want to just win. Winning isn't, he doesn't care. Winning's cool, but no, he wants to fucking annihilate him. That's what he wants to do. He wants to win decisively. He doesn't want to win like in football when the team's got the ball that's got, you know, that's up by 2 or 3 points, and they go and they take a knee 2 or 3 times just to drain the clock in the last minute or two of the game, force the other team to use it. That's a bitch-ass way to cop out of things to get a win. And I've always hated that way. It's so anticlimactic and everything else. You know, you want to see blood on the field. Anyway, sorry I got off on a little tangent there, but the point is that Gon wants to win decisively, right? So as this thing's coming ricocheting back at him, Gon just straight up falls over and just passes out. He just faints. He faints because he just used that much. That is what they mean when they say, go to the next level, or dig down deep. That's what they mean. When you go and you do something and it is so strong and so powerful that you literally, your head is swimming and you literally just faint afterwards, right? And I mean, just so insane. So he faints, the ball misses, right? And as it's going past and everything, you know, of course, all they got to do is let this thing hit the wall or the floor or whatever and bounce off, you know. And Hisoka goes and he's like, oh no, no. That's not how Gon wanted to win. So he catches this thing, he fires out his bungee gum to go and catch it, right? And as he's doing this, it's going this thing, the force of it is so powerful as he's trying to slow it down and swing it back, you know, at him, that his fingers are dislocating and it looks like they're popping out of socket and freaking bending backwards. You just hear all these like bone-curdling crackles and oh man, and he's doing, and Sagara's like, no, what the fuck are you doing, you know? And Hisoka's just like, Gon didn't want to win this way. Gon wants to win decisively, you know, but he doesn't, this kind of creepy, you know, type of thing. So he finally is able to get and slow down the momentum enough of this thing to go and pull it back again and fire it back at Razor's ass, right? And Razor's like, oh, okay, so it's just going to be, you know, it's going to basically be who has the most stamina here, right? But we know that Gon is fainted. He's knocked out. Killua, he's going to be lucky if he doesn't have 2 hooks for fucking hands after this is done, right? And Hisoka, even though he's a pedophile and everything like that, we know he got all kind of busted up fingers and everything else going on. But he fires this thing back at him, right? And the force of it comes back at him, and Razor's like, oh, and he's, you know, he's gonna try to stop it. I'm gonna, you know, and he tries to catch it with like his forearm or whatever it looks again, like he did with the other one. And he does. He's able to slow it down enough to where he's able to actually stop it. But what I love about it and the way the artful stuff is done with the camera and everything else is that at the end of the day, motherfucker stepped out of bounds. He got pushed back out of bounds. He couldn't hang. He couldn't stay in there. And don't get me wrong, I'm not saying I could hang, man. I would have been out of there when the fucking game started. I would have been like, you know what? I'm going to go get a soda. I'll be back in 15 minutes. And I would have never came back. I would have got off Greed Island. I would have got the hell out of there and back to the real world. You know? Man. Anyway. So, they wind up getting a decisive win is the bottom line. And just so intense. So good. And it was just done so well, you know. And I mean, even Razor was like, wow. You know, they really took me to the limits, you know. So as everybody's getting the games over, of course, they're declared the winners and everything else. And Razor and his ragtag group of pirates and what have you, they're gonna leave the town and this and that. So now enabling them, of course, to get the Patch of Shore card, which they were promised. But before that happens, Bisky is going and she's patching up Killua and everything, you know. And Razor goes and tells Gon a little bit about Ging. He says, well, first of all, he's not here, just so you know. But he goes and does go on this little bit of a flashback over here where he shows and he tells us about how he was this hardened criminal. He was this murderer. He was basically this scum that was left, you know, to die, more or less. And Ging is the one who found him and kind of rehabilitated him, I guess you would say, and ultimately hired him, even though he was this thug murderer and everything like that, to be in his game and ultimately to go and to fight against his son, because he went and he said, and they show in this flashback, Jing's like, you know, he's all self-confident about it. He's like, my son one day is going to come here, and I need you to give him, you know, I need you to, don't go easy on him, you know, go hard on him. And he's like, oh, do you want me to kill him? Or do I have permission to kill him? And he's like, whoa, calm down there, fella. This is my son we're talking about. So I think it's partially like, you know, slow your roll, dude. You don't need to be killing anybody, number one. Number two, who the fuck you think you're talking to? This is my son. This is my seed. This is my boy. He's going to be just as strong, if not stronger than me. And that's kind of the theme that I got from that, you know. And the fact that, listen, even when you do go and you're some kind of murderer or whatever the case is, you can still come back. You can still come back. And that's kind of what I took from it, too, you know. Not that I trust the guy watching my kids or anything, but, you know, I'm just saying. Got to give people the benefit of the doubt. The rest of the episode, the second half of it, I guess you would say, plays out just like an RPG video game would. They go and they complete their quest. They go to this lighthouse. The girl, you know, shows them, and the Patch of Shore appears and everything else, or she turns into the Patch of Shore card. Whatever the case was, they get the Patch of Shore, right? So everybody's excited. They use Clone to make 2 copies of it, and Segura's group is obviously going to get one of those copies. And as they all go out there, you know, and Gorenyu, I'm assuming Gorenyu is going to get the other one. So anyway, as they go and exit out of that area and whatnot, they're contacted by none other than the turd burglar that is like a half-ass reject from like the new Scooby-Doo movie that they're not making, because he looks like Fred Jones. And that's Getting Through the Bomber, right? So Getting Through the Bomber contacts them and basically tells Segura, you know, you meet me in an hour at the so-and-so or whatever, and if you don't, we're going to come after you because we want a Patch of Shore card, right? And anyway, whatever. We know that all they need now is Patch of Shore and Lucky Alexandrite, which actually, obviously Gon and Killua, their team there, they possess. So, Hisoka winds up, prior to that, he wound up kind of going off and leaving on his own. And what I liked about the whole thing, though, that I was going to get to before is that as soon as everything was done and Hisoka did what he did, and then kind of Gon came back to consciousness, and he's like, what happened? And Killua says, yeah, you know, this and that happened, and Hisoka deflected it back. He goes, but he took all the glory, you know? And Gon was like, he didn't even care. And Hisoka's like, it's all right, we worked as a team, you know? And it was so funny because Killua was like, or I think it was Gon, one of them says, that's not like you. That's not something that you would say, you know? And I'm just thinking, and then Killua's got, you're looking at him, and I'm just thinking, this dude's he's probably got some major clown wood going on down there, right? And he's probably just sitting there like, the mental images that I got of you guys, you know? So he's probably all excited to get to sniff Killua's armpit or his hair a little bit, you know, maybe his underwear when he wasn't looking. But so that was the payoff for Hisoka. But anyway, Hisoka goes off and does his own thing, and they wind up finding out a comment that he makes about what kind, if you need me again, just use this card or this card, and I'll come to you. And they never revealed that to him, so obviously he was lying about the spell cards and everything else. We know he's full of shit. We all know that. He goes and contacts Finks, and Finks, obviously from the Phantom Troop over there, and he says, we found him. So then Hisoka's off, and he's doing his thing. There's, of course, that continuation of the conversation that I was talking about with Genthru. He's, of course, threatening them. The bottom line is what Gon winds up doing is making a silly mistake. He goes, and even though they're weakened from their battle and everything else, he challenges the dude right then and there, And Genthru, they don't realize, but he's actually watching them from a distance through a spy scope or whatever, which is probably how Hisoka watches most kids at the playground or whatever he does in his own respective thing. Anyway, the bottom line is what winds up happening is that Gon shoots his mouth off, and after the whole conversation is said and through and everything, and they're done with it, Sagara winds up telling Gon, he says, listen, you're a fool. What you did endangered you and the others around you. You're not at full strength. Killua's all beat up over here. His hands are fucked up to all blue. His hands are completely foobarred, fucked up beyond all recognition. And he's screwed, right? And you're going to go and challenge a guy that you can't even beat right now? Anyway, what winds up happening is Sagara says, listen, we'll buy you 3 weeks. First, he offers to buy him a week, right? But then he says, I'll buy you 3 weeks, doing a stalemate tactic and this and that. But when all's said and done, in that 3 weeks, I want you to figure out how you can go and beat Genthru, But I also want Lucky Alexandrite from you afterwards, So they wind up making this deal, and that's how the episode ends off. And we know that obviously they're going to do some training. Killua is going to focus on healing. That's what Bisky says. And then, of course, Gon's going to train with her. So that's how the episode ends off. What a freaking awesome episode, though, man. Explosive and action-filled and action-packed. Just fucking great all the way through. So, my episode question for you, brothers and sisters, is what are your thoughts on the dodgeball game itself, number one, and the second part of the question on the teamwork that was utilized between Gon, Killua, and Hisoka, who's kind of like an anti-hero, villainous type guy, he's got his own sort of things going on, but in this particular arc, he's obviously being helpful to them, He's got his own reasons. We know why. We know he likes to touch children in the night or whatever the deal is. But the bottom line is that I would like to know what your thoughts are on the unlikely alliance between those three and how well it worked. Leave your answer to that question in the comments down below. Feel free to hit the thumbs up, the like button if you should think that I deserve it, and subscribe if you haven't done so already. We're going to look forward to catching all of you in the next one, Nation.
Subscribe to my other channels and follow me on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram as well.
Please.